Hello and welcome to another episode of the Show Me School Facilities podcast hosted by myself. This is a MSPMA podcast, and I am excited for episode number 2 of the day with Mr. Steve McGuire, who is going to give us a little bit on chemical and custodial best practices. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. Steve is actually going to be one of the trainers for the Course Cert 1 Custodial Leadership Program for MSPMA in St. Charles on January 23rd. We will probably be releasing this. This is January 15th. We're probably going to be releasing this the week of the event. So those that registered will have already registered. But there are 8 core certification modules. If you are a Missouri school plant manager or facility leader, or want to be, this is an incredible program. It is a must-do program, and you just have to go to 7 of the 8, and typically you can complete the program in a year and a half or 2 years. I'm actually on my final. This will be, I believe, my last module that I'll, in fact, have my certification for this great state of Missouri. So, that was the plug for MSPMA. Now we're going to get into Steve. So, Steve, welcome. Thank you for making the time to be here with us today. And I ask this of every guest, is this your first podcast?
This is my first podcast. Yes, I'm a little nervous about it. That's why I was like, "Oh, podcast." I know I just got to go with the flow,
Yeah.
so I don't like
As
the
you should be. You
surprises.
should be nervous. With someone like me as the host, you should absolutely be nervous, shaking in your boots and wondering, what did I get myself into? But no, we're gonna be easy on you. But what the reason why we wanted you here, Steve, is you are considered to be an industry leader in understanding your craft, your expertise. You are with Buckeye, correct? Uh,
Yep, yep. Buckeye International, right here in St. Louis, Missouri.
So tell a little bit of background, how long you've been in the industry, why do you love it? Why do you love what you do? And how did you get here?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. Um, I grew up in Webster Groves and went to Mizzou, and then actually started at Buckeye right out of college. So in 2014. So I have been with Buckeye since so going on 11 years now. Um, been my only career, and the reason I've kind of hung around has really been the customers and the company, the industry. It's one of those things we always tell like newer recruits and all that. Like it's not always the sexiest industry in the world, but it's one of those things that's like completely necessary. And it's not an industry that everybody always thinks about. And it's sometimes a thankless job in this industry as well. So it's one of those things where it is fun to work in the industry and basically show people the different products out there, the technology and all that in the way the world is going. And definitely the last couple of years have been strange, post COVID and all that. The hand washing side of things, the cleaning, disinfecting, it really put a highlight on our industry, which is great.
Mhm.
Uh, it's one of those things that now we seem to be regressing a little bit back to where it's now like,
A lot.
oh man, yeah,
Let's not say a little bit. I mean, it's a lot. And
right,
it's, and I'm not saying it in the education space. I'm saying it as the industry. Go to any bathroom USA right now, and it's not the supplies and the technology. It is the staff load, and we can get into that. All of that stuff. And now that I know that you went to Mizzou, my ADHD just kicked in, and we'll get on to the cleaner side of things in a second. But I had never been to Columbia that I can remember until the most recent core 8 in November. And I gotta tell you something, that campus blew me away.
it's
Um,
a gorgeous campus.
it is,
People don't expect it.
well, I'm gonna tell you, the fraternity and sorority row, those fraternities and sororities are not what you would see in Animal House. Those are like, wow, blow you away. The stadium, just the
Yep.
flow of the campus, the hospitals that are there right there on campus, that just everything just absolutely gorgeous. So if you're considering Mizzou, if you're out of state and you haven't been to the campus and that's something that's on the list, I'll tell you right now, just from appearance alone, the things that were said to me by folks, Charlie, as a matter of fact, would talk. Charlie Branham is was a student there. I think he got his master's there. He was going for his doctorate there. Um, he would tell me about the campus all the time until I saw it. I was like, no way. But I mean, clean, well kept, everything else. And it's probably because they got people like you that go there and tell them what to do and how to do it. So, but yeah, let's get into this because you're spot on. I mean, uh, pre-COVID, we've always had staffing levels, right? I mean, let's face it, getting custodians on board to work in any capacity, the public sector is probably the hardest, right? Probably one of the lower paid side of the house, um, demanding, and the workload, and it's often thankless, and it's hard to find folks. Pre-COVID, COVID hit, we were able to play catch up because the buildings were empty.
Mhm.
Post-COVID, we've got, I tell this all the time to people, you've got to position the position of what a custodian actually does in a school compared to other jobs. But we have people that can work, nothing wrong with it, but we have people that work in drive-throughs at coffee shops making $20+ an hour with benefits and don't have the
Half the workload.
right. And so that in turn causes um, severe lack in staffing, which then becomes a worse product. I'm not going to say the airports that I flew out of Boston. Obviously, Boston is pretty well taken care for. I have an Admirals Club pass. I'm not ashamed to say it because I have 119 flights a year, so I have some place that I can go that is well taken care of when I'm in Boston. But I won't say what other airports I was at yesterday. But you could see they weren't cared for the way that they've typically were cared for and as recent as a couple of years. And I'm going to tell you, when COVID hit, the first times I was flying, you saw people feverishly washing their hands in the bathroom. Now they're just walking out. Uh,
Exactly.
Now they're just walking out. Um, so, but let's get into what you see in this space. I mean, obviously, you're not the only company. That's
Right.
full disclosure. This is not meant to be a a spotlight on your company. This is a spotlight on what you see in the industry. Something that used to say, hey, there's people that do this. So this is learning from you and your expertise. What are some things that you're seeing is there something that really is exciting you about the industry, about what you're seeing? Autonomous, can we talk about autonomous equipment?
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
let's dig into some of the things that you're just like, you go to bed at night and you can't wait to wake up to talk about, to share with people.
Right. Yeah. So I was putting together the PowerPoint for the 1.4, selecting chemicals and equipment's kind of what I'm going over next Thursday. And I've done a couple of these now. I was at one in Lee Summit a couple of years ago, down at
Yep.
the lake a couple of years ago as well. And I tend to bring up autonomous at every one. And I think I probably first brought it up 2019, 2020, probably a little bit right before COVID there. And everybody looked at me like I had three heads. Like it's like, oh man, robots aren't, it's that those won't, when will it be feasible to purchase a robot scrubber and all that? And I vividly remember a demo we had done for a school district here in St. Louis, and a customer had asked the price, and I was like, it's roughly 60, 70,000. And he literally started laughing. He's like, I could buy roughly 10, 20-inch auto scrubbers at that price. Why would I? And I was like, I mean, you're not wrong. It's one of those things that's just as needed, that kind of thing. And I think post COVID and staffing, not to mention some of the COVID funds and all that,
Mhm.
definitely made it much more feasible for a lot of school districts.
Yeah.
Allocating some of that salary that wasn't being used for being lower, or some of those COVID funds to definitely help out with ESSER funds, COVID funds to help out with the purchasing of it. And I think people really saw that those autonomous scrubbers weren't necessarily there to replace jobs, because that technology, I think, still years away. Ultimately, it's to take away some of the monotonous day-to-day cleaning your floors kind of thing. If you
Mm.
don't have to worry about that, the custodians in the building can then, hey, go worry about the bathrooms, go take out the trash, and they don't have to worry about scrubbing that floor at that.
Well, the high, yeah, all the high touch. I mean,
Exactly.
how much attention are we putting on doorknobs when we have to also push a scrubber,
Right.
20,000 square foot?
Right.
That's the thing. I don't believe autonomous custodial equipment will replace a custodian. And by the way, when we talk about replacing custodians, there needs to be a replacement of custodians in schools, but not the active custodians. Because when I say there needs to be a replacement, if you've got a school district that needs five custodians, right now they've got two or three. So if we can't get two or three bodies to step in, one of these auto scrubbers, one of these devices could make a difference. And that's
Absolutely.
if they're doing the lining of the fields. Casey Hausman in St. Joe's, who we've had on here, he's got one of those autonomous line painters, and it can get within 1/100th of a centimeter of a whatever. I mean, the accuracy and the level of it. Guess what? Need to have somebody that goes out there and fills that with paint, but they can be
Right.
doing fence checks, bleacher checks, and other things at the same time. So that's one of the things. AI and autonomous devices, people are terrified of. I'm excited about it,
I am
um,
too.
and it's only because we sit here and I look at any facility technician or custodian. I could take a full time's worth of labor off of any of their plates. They'd still have a full time job.
Exactly.
Still have a full
Yep.
time job.
Yeah, I remember talking with some school districts as we were trying to figure out staffing levels, and it's always like, oh, in a perfect world, what square footage does a custodian cover? And
Hmm.
typically here between like 30 and 40,000. And then it's like, what are our custodians actually covering? It's
Hmm.
a lot more than that for sure these days.
Well, yeah, and we put that into perspective. That's 20 to 30 homes, with the average home size being 1,500 square feet. And that if we do 20 to 30 homes, with the average having two to three kids, you're talking 40 to 80 kids that would be walking through there. That same number of square foot's got hundreds of kids that are picking their nose and doing all the things that because their parents aren't there to tell them not to do it.
Exactly.
And so it's a heavy lift. It's a heavy lift. Um,
And I really think a big part of trying to either maintain, like keep custodians engaged and get those custodians that are engaged, doing a great job, and it's basically teaching them new skills. So anybody can scrub that floor. So if we have that autonomous do that, let's get some special skills going,
yeah,
be it gym floors, something like that, or like heck, the summer stripping. I feel like stripping has become almost a lost art these days. It's your old school custodians that still do it, but a lot of this younger generation has not gotten into the stripping, or they're like, oh no, I don't do that. It's like,
yeah. So the reason why I love my jobs and things like this that I have the honor to do is because I know a little bit about a lot of things and I know nothing about many things. And so it's something that I try to keep up with, what's going on, what are some of the buzzwords, what are some of the practices. Something that came out in the mid 2000s, and it was really pushed in the state of Connecticut because they were really pushing the envelope on environment and everything else, was blue cleaning. I don't hear about blue cleaning anymore. It was basically and it's using water and ions and all this other stuff, basically using no actual chemical. And you probably know more about this than I do. To,
yes. So and I was talking to somebody about that the other day, that those some of those companies that were with that ionized water have just kind of gone by the wayside.
yeah,
Uh, our side, so we're a chemical manufacturer here.
yeah,
So chemicals are our baby.
yeah,
And I've had lots of conversations with our chemist as some of that technology was coming about, and we'd be doing demos at schools, and our chemists are always like, "Hey, the white towel test." And it's put that ionized water in a scrubber on the left side, and then use our all-purpose cleaner, our floor cleaner, on a scrubber on the right side. Get a towel wet, and then put it right behind that scrubber, and it's basically, yep, you end up there's a lot more dirt from the ionized water.
right. Yeah.
Um, I mean,
I
is
mean,
there a use for it? I don't know. It seemed like that was definitely a fad that has kind of gone by the wayside a little bit.
over the course of your career, you're going to see a lot of them. I just thought it was, conceptual. I was a custodian, so that's how I started. And when I started my journey prior to my professional journey in software and all this other stuff I do now,
Mhm.
I was a glorified. I had a small property management company at 19, And I quickly realized that if the world counted on me to change a flush valve, we'd all be underwater quickly. So I basically was the custodian and then did the work, assignments to outsourcing and things like that. And back then, our cleaner was bleach.
Okay.
You that was the main, if you wanted somebody to feel like the bathroom was clean, just pour some bleach on the floor and people walk in, they go,
Yeah,
oh, must be clean, right?
exactly.
And so when I saw all this blue cleaning stuff coming out, and it was like it hit the world by storm quickly, and then it just disappeared. And for me, it was like logic just says you have to have something. There has to be some other reaction other than ionized water to truly get that clean. I mean, bloodborne pathogen cleaning and everything else. Like you put water on it. I don't know. It just didn't make any sense to me. Uh,
Another thing our chemist would always say too is like, oh, you go into your house and you step on a nice pile of dog poop in your backyard, you bring it into your house and your kitchen floor. Are you going to use ionized water for that, or are you going to use an actual chemical? So it's like that.
yeah,
That was always a good way to kind of think about it too. And it's
yeah, yeah. And I had old dogs. I know what that feeling's like. So,
like, absolutely.
um, but yeah, one of the things to kind of, and this is all flowing. We had no conversation as discussion as where this is going to go. So that's what I love and appreciate you being open for it. Is um, that my comment about the smell of bleach and what people got accustomed to, right? That pungent smell of a chemical to realize that everything's clean. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe, but the level of scent and there's probably no difference in strength of efficacy of what these chemicals are doing, but you don't smell that harsh smell of chemicals like you did 20 or 30 years ago. Did
And really the big thing we always say clean doesn't really have a smell. Uh, and
Mhm.
it's a lot of times the old school folks that are like, oh, bleach or ammonia, that's
Oh
what
yeah,
I need. Uh, and like even like a floor stripper, the floor
yeah,
stripper, if it's not burning my nose, it's not working. We have a lot of people kind of like that.
right,
Whereas like uh, being green was a big movement with us.
yeah,
Uh, and like back in the day, butyl was very prevalent in cleaners and strippers, and actually butyl ended up being found to be cancer causing in certain
yeah,
states and all that. So butyl's almost gone by the wayside. But the technology has come so far on all that uh, and like bleach is a horrible cleaner. It's kind of crazy. It just smells like it, but
right,
actually bleach won't break any surface tension. So it's one of those things like, oh yeah. Uh, and like on the green side of things as well, they've really worked to, I mean, fragrances really aren't in the green chemicals and all that anymore
right,
because now it's being found that the fragrances and all that typically aren't good for you. So I saw today the FDA got rid of red 2 or red 4,
red three, red, yeah, red
one of
something,
those.
yeah,
And it kind of goes along those lines of like to be Green Seal certified, you can either have a fragrance or a color, but you can't really have both.
yeah,
So it's kind of taking out that unnecessary stuff and basically, yeah, let's just get the stuff that cleans, get the all that
yeah.
going.
I was just I'm not going to say where I was, but I'll say that I was at a rest area on a highway and went to the bathroom. The bathroom was not cared for properly. And I was in there and I was like, man, it smells like it's clean. And I looked around and there were outlets and all the outlets were residential Glade plugins. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. And
Right.
but I mean, and that's not good for you. I don't care what
No,
anybody says. Glade plugins are it smells nice, but it can't be good for you.
right.
But yeah, I have found that the when I smell those chemicals, and one of them, and we'll switch gears on this. Um, One of the things is I had used bleach. Now this is early 90s, so full transparency. This wasn't last week. This was 1994. But when I went into my first day of taking over the program for the facilities to office buildings, there was all chemical left there. There was bleach. There was an all-purpose spray that was probably Windex. It just didn't say Windex. It was just an offshoot of Windex. There was the standard trifold paper towels. Thankfully, not the brown rolls. Um, Have they figured out how to actually pick anything up with those brown rolls yet? Or is it, I mean, it's amazing. Everybody still uses them, but if you get a spill, you got to use 7.5 rolls and you still got liquid at the end of the day.
Yep, no, the brown towel's still ultra recycled,
Yeah.
still kind of move liquid around. Not great for cleaning, that's for sure. They do the job on hands for the most
Yeah.
part, but they haven't gotten any better over the years, really.
Yeah. So so my question is, um, what we're seeing in schools a lot now, the brown towels is a great example. My bleach, it was there, and multi-purpose cleaner. It seems to be something that just trends along because that's the way we've always done it. How hard is it to go into a school that's doing a lot of old school stuff, because there's a lot that still are misusing the purpose of the product. The brown rolls are a perfect example.
Mhm.
They're ultra recycled, not as bad for the environment as everything else, but anything outside of drying their hands, they shouldn't be used for anything, and they're used for a lot of things.
True.
What are some things that you do to get people to think differently, or what's a best practice, or how does that all work?
Yeah. And a lot of those, there are a lot of schools, a lot of school districts that are still like that. And the biggest thing, and especially for the facilities directors out there, if a facilities director wants to kind of change that,
Mm-hmm.
I would say the biggest thing is we have to get the staff involved, uh,
Mm-hmm.
because no matter what kind of intentions the facilities director has on wanting to change things, if he changes that toilet paper, changes that towel, uh, the staff's going to let him have it.
Yeah.
Trash liners are always a really good example. We sell trash liners, we manufacture trash liners, and I go into a school and I'm like, oh, what's the most popular? I'll ask somebody if they're using a 38 by 58, which happens to be the most popular size out there. So, how many trash cans does a 38 by 58 trash liner fit in? The correct answer is actually none. A 38 by 58 was
Yeah.
made for the old 55-gallon drum back in the day,
Yeah.
and it's still out there. But
Yeah.
if we go to change that 38 by 58 without talking to the staff or showing them why, they're instantly just going to think, "Oh man, Josh is going cheap on me. He's
Yeah.
not. He's going cheap. He does not giving us as good of a liner." But if we can work with them and show them why we're switching the liners or why we're talking about going through different towels or different chemicals and all that, it typically helps with the launches. And a lot of times if we launch something like a bigger change or whatnot, let's get
Hmm.
one person from every school involved in it,
Yeah.
and have them be a part of the decision. That always helps tremendously, getting every level involved, because hey, they're the ones using it every day and they're the ones it's affecting the most, so we need to get them involved in on the decision, and that'll just help everybody.
Yeah, no, you just walked right into that, and thank you, because that is one of the most overlooked from a vendor perspective. Vendors don't get the people that are going to be the end users involved. In the technology space with me, I always tell people, get a custodian, get a technician, get these folks involved in the process. Why are you going to give a custodian a broom that you chose if you're not going to push it? And they're going to. And so have that hands-on experience. Have them say, yeah, this works and or doesn't work, and then have the discussion with them, as to why or how or what you're going to do. The other part to that, I'm assuming you obviously you provide education to your clients because you're going to be providing education in St. Charles next week. Um, and I think that there's a certain, again, it could be old school, could be something, but in me, I'm sure I do it. Hey, 3 ounces of this concentrated cleaner is good, but I got to do great. Let me put 6 or 10 or 12, or hey, let me just do 1-to-1 on this thing. Um, from a provider standpoint, some folks are like, oh, that's great, more for me, but essentially, correct me if I'm wrong. You guys put the measurements, mix measurements for a reason.
Absolutely.
Mixing more will either do nothing, or it could actually be counterproductive and could be damaging to a surface, or if nothing else, you're just kind of throwing money down the sink, right?
Right, right. we always refer to, I mean, there's a reasoning that chemical proportioning has become so big over the years.
Hmm.
It kind of takes the guesswork out of it because it's all the old school plug and chug kind of thing where, yeah, little is good, more is even better.
Yep.
Uh, the biggest thing our chemists always say is like, oh, there's a reason it says 2 ounces per gallon on there. It's not
Yeah.
just for fun. It performs its best at that proportion with the water.
Yeah.
So that's, and a lot of times, like floor strippers, another example where ours most commonly floor strippers are like 1 to 4 or whatnot, and our chemists literally say if you go full, and a lot of times we'll hear it at schools like, oh, we're gonna make it, we're gonna make that batch hot, we're gonna get it going, we're going full strength on that. It's not as effective. So like even something like floor stripping, if you're not going at that 1 to 4, you're actually making more work for yourself and costing the district a little extra money. So it's one
Yeah.
of those things. 1 to 4, there's a reason for that. That's a tested amount, and that's where it works best. So
Yeah, no, I just finished a 16-hour facility core program in another state this week, and one of the presenters he had a great analogy with a custodian that said it's three glugs. You pour the bottle, it's glug glug glug, and that's the amount that needs to be poured. And um, unfortunately, that's one of the most overlooked things, right? And that's proper proper mixing, proper use, proper training. The what a custodian, again, it will take me
yeah,
1993, 1994. You pushed a vacuum, you pushed a broom, you poured some chemical on the floor, you mopped it around, you cleaned it, looked good, and it smelled like it was cleaned. That was good enough. Today, custodial oversight, what they cover. I mean, go over some of the stuff that a custodian has to do and cover. I mean, electrostatic sprayers, that was unheard of until COVID, right? Now it's a standard operating procedure in most districts. So, what is a custodial oversight of what they have to do and manage and be aware of look like that you for you guys, what you guys help them with?
yeah. So that could be anything from checklist. Because I always think like on the sub kind of standpoint.
Hmm.
So like, what do you do if you have some custodial subs coming in? You have to be able to show them basically the basics of the job in 15 to 20 minutes, see what you can
Hmm.
do, and then kind of go from there. So for us, like we will do anything from checklists to surveys to we'll work with the staff quarterly, yearly, whatever is needed kind of thing, and basically go through a bathroom. So bathroom top to bottom kind of cleaning, uh, do the floors last because if you do the floors first, everything's going to come down on it. You're going to have to kind of do it all over again, and it
Hmm.
comes down to basically showing the custodians success, making it as simple as possible. So, like back to the chemical kind of thing, the proportioning systems, they don't have to think about dilution rate. They push the button, chemical comes out correctly. They go ahead, mop the floor. Floor won't be sticky. They won't get yelled at by teachers, their boss, things like that. Set them up for success. I feel like that's our job, is to set up custodians, set up everything for success, make it as simple as possible. So they hang around, they enjoy their job, they keep it going, and kind of go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, you make a great point with regard to you make a great point on the floor last. I was just with a district that had a superintendent that pet peeve dust bunnies, absolute
Mm.
pet peeve. And so and they have the three-quarter height lockers with the angled tops,
Yep.
which are often overlooked. So superintendent went and said, "Hey, you got to get all these dust bunnies. You got to. I hate dust bunnies. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them." I says, "Well, I don't know what to tell you. I take my sweeper, I take my duster, and I do the long line of the lockers, and I get all the dust bunnies." And when we looked a little further, that was the last thing the custodian was doing. So they were cleaning this floor meticulously and then swiping, and there's no way you're not going to have dust bunnies going all over the place. And it's like, all right, and that's just a simple thing, right? Flip the script, do the locker first, wipe down the fronts, because we're wiping down the fronts. We were wiping down the fronts, doing all that stuff, but doing the angled top of the locker last. So there was no way of avoiding it. And it was just a very simple procedure that was just done because and what the truth of the matter was, nobody was probably cleaning the tops of those lockers prior to this person taking that proactive approach. Probably caught something one day and saw it and said, "Oh, let me do this." Boom, and it was an easy fix. But that's like we think about these things. You and I could be talking here, and it's like that makes abundant sense. Why wouldn't somebody think of that? And it's like, well, on the job, there's so many tasks that a custodian in a school has to be responsible for. And let's add customer service.
Yeah.
Let's add first first responder in many cases. Let's it picks up all of the messes of the day that are unexpected, whether that is a bloodborne pathogen some kid throws up, life-saving technique because they choke on a carrot. Like there's a whole long list of things. So these simple processes you have to make redundant and you have to set in place. And it's great that companies, and I've seen this, I don't know if they've always done this, but companies like yours putting in these professional development opportunities, these teaching opportunities and learning opportunities for the staff so that they can properly do the work.
Yeah, and on top of that, so be it, hey, at the beginning of the school year, we'll bring all the staff in, do a long training on basically day to day what we need to do. But then what happens when we're not there? So that's why we also like to kind of implement, be it wall charts of, hey, cafeteria lunch tasks, one
Hmm.
through six with pictures, as well as say routine hallway cleaning. What do we do? And those are typically stored in the custodial closets. And then I also I always like to implement different kinds of chemical kind of wall charts as well.
Hmm.
And I like those for, hey, you have somebody new, you have somebody that just wants to make sure they're doing the right steps, getting nervous about their job or whatnot. They can go into that closet and always have a fallback. All right, let me look. So the blue is the window cleaner, green is the disinfectant, that's for bathrooms, and then purple's for floors. So that's what I need to do. And then boom, they're good. It gives them a little reassurance and all that. And then they always have something to fall back on. And then as managers, we can always use that to kind of help them. Like, hey, saw the floor was sticky. It seems like you used a disinfectant. Let's go in, show them, and then show them exactly what they should be doing. Go from there. And it's just teaching opportunities and all that as well.
My $1 billion idea. Here it is. And I've
Yep.
I've presented it to a couple of people that are in the business that you do, and I've said this is how the future looks is those charts having a QR code, multiple language with step-by-step video tutorials. Everybody does YouTube. And you're going to tell me you've got it. Tell me you've got it because I've said it and I'm like, this makes all the sense in the world.
So we've got it close to it. So,
Uh,
so the
love it.
wall charts, the
Yep.
QR codes take you to the SDS sheets.
Mm-hmm.
And then the wall chart right now is taking you to how to use the chemical system.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the next step because we have wall charts like that
Yep.
uh,
It's got to be multilingual
language,
and it
and we
has to
have the
be,
video. So
yeah. It has to be multilingual and it has to be multilingual based on knowing what the languages that are spoken. So
right,
there's parts of the country that English is second language, and for custodial staff, I mean, we have some districts that we work with that the facility director has to be bilingual because they're 70% or greater English as second language. And we're talking multiple languages. It's not just Spanish, because Spanish was the most widely spoken second language in the United States for a period of time. There's a lot of different languages being spoken that custodial staff, you know, it's just thought that, yeah, hey, brooms don't talk back, right? But having that capacity, and the other piece to that is, unfortunately, I've seen custodians that are illiterate,
right,
and you find out that the hard way because they're used to pouring a cup of bleach and they're pouring a cup of cleaner, and you're seeing a huge spike. And I help schools try to determine where and why things are happening because I don't believe I don't the percentage of people that are doing something wrong because they want to is extremely low. The percentage of things that happen incorrectly in some cases is very high. And it's typically because they either don't know, haven't been trained properly, or too ashamed to ask, or can't read that chart because they don't have the capacity to read. So that's my $1 billion idea. You're on it. You're on the right track, and you
Oh
got to
yeah,
be the leaders in industry. But that's the only way for me to get it out there is to put it out there, right?
absolutely.
But that's one of the things that I think would be amazing is a customized, and you can do it on YouTube. It's free,
Right,
a
absolutely.
video walkthrough. So, hey, you're welcome. I don't expect any stock options. I don't expect any.
They'll give you the royalties on that.
I don't expect Mr. Buckeye to be calling me and be like, "Hey, thanks for that great idea." If he does, that's cool. Or at least put me on the Christmas card list.
Right,
But I think that's the way we have to embrace technology and how we do things because there's this evolution, right? Green
right.
cleaning, blue cleaning, whatever cleaning, fads and things that come and go.
And that's something you're starting to see with like the equipment.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like most equipment manufacturers now they have that QR code on the back of it, which will take you right to their website, and basically they'll be able to pull the manual from there. They'll be able
Yeah.
to pull a how-to video and all that. So that's a cool thing. Technology is taking off so fast.
Yep.
And talking about the different languages, I've been at several schools. The coolest thing ever is seeing their manager on their phone talking to Google Translate, and it's just translating real time, and they can just communicate that quickly with multiple different languages. That's unbelievable. It's
There's translation AirPods. They're not made by Apple, but there's an actual uh, ear pod that someone puts in, and it will actually real time interpret language
that,
and go to their language and then vice versa.
that is very cool.
That's pretty wild.
It is.
No, the future holds things like an AI assistant that you'll be able to plug in, and that AI assistant will know who the person is, what language they speak, what they want to do, and how it all. I mean, that's probably years away. Could be sooner, but yeah, it's having someone by their side, I think is very cool. So what you guys are doing, I had no idea, and of course, you got it right there. You just boom. That's pretty cool. So congratulations, hats off on getting in my brain a little bit, or
That's
maybe I saw one of your workbooks on a wall someplace or something. But
and like all these things like that, the SDS code, it came from a customer.
yeah,
Customer was like, "Hey, these SDS sheets, the like when I started before the 2018 global harmonization kind of thing, where all the SDS changed,
yeah,
uh, they used to be just front and back was the SDS sheet. You have your numbers on the top, easy to find, all that. Post 2018, these SDS sheets now, instead of the MSDS, the
hmm
SDS are like some of them are 13 pages long. So it's one of those things where we used to probably back in your day too. You used to have like the MSDS booklet in.
I wasn't in the horse and buggy time.
Okay,
Back in my day, I mean, I know I'm old. I know I got a gray beard, but let's not I'm in the year of 50 here. I got
sorry, that was a low blow. That was a
That's
low
all right. No worries. I'll take it.
blow. But back when everybody would have like the packs of SDSs in the closet. Now these things are 13 pages for a disinfectant. So it's like, I mean, you're killing three trees to print all those SDSs. So they customer had said, "Hey, can you just put a QR code on here to take us right to that sheet? So then, should we need it, somebody can just go right up there. Teachers, if they're curious about what's in the cleaners, what's in all that,
Yeah.
custodians can take the teachers, take the principals, or even parents right to it, and it's just quickly accessible. So that's another just cool thing of technology.
Well, I don't want to say I'm a trailblazer, but it was over 10 years ago that I had we one of my companies we do a consumable inventory management, and they were MSDS sheets, I believe, back then. Maybe they were just changing over to that. But the one thing that I had told all my clients was, while not often and while not frequent, those sheets do change. There
Yes.
are things that change. And if you just have that hard copy there and you let it sit stagnant, does you no good. If you have a QR code or you have a website attached to that, we started actually probably close to 15 years ago where we would actually put the SDS link, the URL on the work order so that they could have the up-to-date SDS sheets. And then we went to barcodes or QR codes probably, it's got to be 10 years ago, um, where they would go to that updated manufacturer SDS sheet, and so they would have the most up to date as of that day. And that's an important thing because yeah, you still see people print those 13 pages because it's a requirement. Got to have it. Um, but if it's not up to date, or if there's some drastic change that happens, or if there's something, big that does a modified on there, they don't have it, right? They've got the sheets, but it's not what they need. And most people aren't going to go fiddle through those 13 pages if they're on a wall anyway.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. Congratulations. So let's talk about closing out on this. And you talked about autonomous. Is there anything else that you're really excited about, or just the idea of the future? Like, what does the future of clean schools look like, or what else is out there, or what are things that you think about, or you don't need to go right behind the curtain and tell us your biggest secret that you don't want your competitors to know about. But is there something that you're really, really excited about outside of, kind of the autonomous and some of the other stuff?
Well, I think it's interesting. It's like the way of the world now too. I think COVID opened everybody's eyes on needing to manufacture in America. Uh,
Hmm.
and for us being an American manufacturer, we were still there were certain things that were being made overseas, and then come COVID, it was all of a sudden, oh man, yeah, you can't get that stuff. So
Right.
uh, I think the vertical integration has become so much more important, and I think that is just going to continue to happen um, in the future. I know we've had a lot of talk about tariffs and that kind of stuff coming up, and gloves seem to be a big thing on that. The like vinyl glove industry is
Hmm.
like 100%. It was this January 1st was 100% tariff was put on it, so the prices were doubling, and then there's
Hmm.
another 100% hitting next January 1st, so it'll double again, and that's just going to force people to bring that stuff to the US. Because right now, like glove manufacturers, there's one big old warehouse in
Yeah.
China, a couple more in Asia, different
Yeah.
areas, but they're
Vietnam.
all making the whole world's gloves.
Yeah.
So it's like at some point it has to be some glove manufacturers popping up a little bit closer to home and all that. So I
Well,
think
you would
yeah,
think you could make a vinyl glove in the United States cheaper than it costs for it to be manufactured in China and shipped over on a barge. And I get bulk and all that stuff, but it just I'm not that smart. But I
right.
was um I was unemployed for 12 hours during COVID. And I talked to a number of people, and one of the things that I was, something that someone had asked me, because I'm very fortunate. I've only had a resume once. It was in 1997. It was done with a typewriter, and it's never seen a potential job again. And one of the things that someone talked to me about um, one day was my network and accessibility to getting gloves, because the gloves and masks were an urgency, right? And I did about an hour's worth of homework, and all of the vinyl gloves that were being procured in the United States, you're absolutely right, were in China and Vietnam. I think it was Vietnam.
Yeah.
And the premiums that they were charging, knowing and that they'd sell out, right? Was crazy. And so when I was doing the numbers and I was looking at this stuff, I'm like, there's got to be somebody that we can manufacture these things in a sterile environment that's not going to be, because of the way that they do it environmentally, I'm sure that the rules and regulations let them just blow smoke in the air and all that other stuff.
It's
Um,
a dirty process. I know that.
yeah, it's a dirty process, and so I'm sure we could do it cleaner, but how could we not do it cheaper, especially with all of the technology in today? So yeah, I love that. I love that. That's something for you, because I'm a huge Made in USA person myself. It's important.
Right. For sure.
Well, that's good. Did I miss anything? Are we on? Is there anything else that we should turn a rock over and talk about here? I think we got dirty and cleaned right up again. I think that
I think so.
um,
I think we
the
covered a lot there.
yeah, well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is we get two optimistic folks that think that we can make the world a cleaner place, and we're on a mission to do it collectively as a group, and that's important. And I think on that note, I think it's important for anybody that listens to this podcast. I know it's a heavy facility professional listener, but I know that there's people outside of this. But even your facility professionals, thank a custodian.
Hmm.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
custodian. I see these posts on LinkedIn where people say, treat your custodian the way you treat your CEO. Not enough people do that. I would put something that says most people don't do that. So at the very least, say thank you. These guys are cleaning up. our messes and doing a great job at it and the best job that they can. And there's probably a very high level number of burnout. So, Steve, I think you'll agree with me. Thank a custodian. Thank all custodians. So, and thank you for your mission and for your, like you say, it's not a sexy this work we do, and we're just supporters of these missions. The work that we do is not sexy, right? It's like, hey, what do you do? I remember when I did that resume in 1997, I kept out the part of the property management company because I didn't think that would be looked at as opportunistic for me to get the job. And so when the interviewer, Bill Foster, uh, said, "Hey, there's this gap here. Did you just take time off to go to college, or what were you doing?" And I said, "Well, for the ladies, I called myself an environmental engineer, but it's nothing more than a glorified custodian." And so it's not a sexy job, but it's a fulfilling career where we get to help folks that make a difference in our kids and our community. So appreciate you making the time for us and sharing some of your insight and ideas and making sure people aren't scared of the autonomous auto scrubbers.
Right, right. Think of them as cobots. Cobots, work with them.
Oh, I love it. I've never heard that. Cobots. I love it.
Yes.
That's good. You got to be, hey, you better go get off this call, go trademark and patent the whole thing.
Exactly.
I haven't heard that yet. So you got to own it. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
well, listen, I look forward to seeing you in person next week. Thank you for giving the time. We'll have to have you back on for what's next in the wonderful world of cleaning and when you get those QR codes with some videos and tutorials and things. Uh, I'm going to take some credit on that. So I
Yep,
always have
we got you. We got you.
yeah, absolutely. So, no, this was great. Thank you very much. And that'll do it for another episode here of the Show Me Mo School Facilities podcast. We have been quiet for a little bit. We're going full steam ahead. The goal is to do 4 to 8. We've got 4 recordings this week. So some of these recordings are going to be a little bit delayed. I apologize if I say the date or do something. It's just a piece of habit. But we are committed to giving 4+ episodes a month to you. If you're a Missouri school facility professional, or if you're a facility professional or a provider for school facility professionals in the great state of Missouri, or even surrounding states, and you want to be on the podcast, share best practices, talk about what you're seeing, exciting things down the pike in the world of facility management, drop me an email, josh@beawesome.com. That's BEAUSM is the best way to get me. And we'll get you on the podcast and share all your best practices. So in the meantime, thank you, custodians. Thank you for choosing your profession and showing up to work every day. You make a difference, and we'll talk to you soon.